Make this one C, item C. And as it was pointed out, we no longer have a consent agenda because every meeting we pull something out. So decided to just make an active agenda. So the first item of business, is citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments? No comments.
I'll comment just that the council, I believe, passed the, or approved the contract with Mountain Waterworks yesterday for the design and construction, but you guys have only approved design so far for the East Orchards sewer phase 3.
Excellent.
So that is moving forward.
I think we've approved design, bidding, and reserve.
Yes.
Yes.
But I understand why you're compartmentalizing it that way.
All right.
Citizen comment. Jerry Chavez, the new CEO, Executive Director of Valley Vision, was planning to come to the meeting and I suppose say something. And we're not sure he knows where the meeting is, right?
Well, the only reason that he's not here, I'm thinking he might have come
Could be,
down to
yeah, could be a
community
city
development where my
development.
office is.
Anyway, I text him where it is, so if he comes later, maybe we could go back to citizen comments.
Absolutely.
If he comes, I don't know.
Yes, I think it'd be great to introduce
There he
him.
is.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
You've just been looking for a parking spot.
That's possible too.
Sometimes, some days that's pretty hard.
Yeah.
We're just talking about you maybe showing up.
Hi, Jerry.
How's it going?
Good.
Yes, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you very much.
And we are on
I'm glad to be
citizen
here.
comments, and we'd love to, if you stand and introduce yourself, and if you have anything you want to share with us.
Oh, I will share that I'm new to this organization, been here all of 4 weeks. Bit of my background, 27 years in this business of economic development. Started in Flagstaff, Arizona. You know where that's at?
Yep.
Anybody?
Yep.
And then had the fortune to go to Great Falls, Montana, shortly after there. Then I was recruited to Minot, North Dakota. So why not Minot? Reason's the reason. You should kill me every time I heard that. And then I was recruited to Indiana, just south of South Bend, if you know where that's at.
Yes.
Home of Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Spent 7 years there and was recruited to Mississippi. And there I was working for somebody else and probably not the best fit. So 17 years as president CEO for organizations like Valley Vision. Reputation of implementing new initiatives, turning programs around. And I'm proud to say that in my career I've been part of, assisted, built teams that have captured about $2 billion worth of CapEx in very, very small markets. And countless jobs, too many that I forgot to count and don't count and that sort of thing. So thank you very much for letting me share. Hopefully, and this is not so much, I'm not patting myself on the back, just trying to help you understand my experiences and what I bring to the table here at Lewis and Clark Valley. Thank you. And I know a couple of people here.
Okay, why don't we go around the room and introduce ourselves
thank
to you? Jerry Chavez, right?
It's close enough.
Oh,
It's Chavez.
Chavez.
So the origin of the name is, if you know Spanish.
Does Latin count?
A little bit. Latin's that romantic language, right? So keys in Spanish are called llaves. So either my ancestors were locksmiths or thieves. I don't know which one. I'll take one. So it's Chavez.
Chavez.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm Joanne Cole Hansen. I'm the chair for the URA as of this very minute.
I'm Sheila Bond. I'm vice chair, new to the URA as well.
And from private sector or city?
I'm sorry.
You're a member at large.
I'm a member at large, yes.
Work for the city, county?
well, I live in the city, but we actually have, our board is made up of 3 at-large members, of which we only have 2 of those at-large seats filled. And then the rest represent the city, the county, Valley Vision, and the port.
And I was trying to determine what your day job is.
Oh, my day job is I'm the financial officer for the Lewiston Orchards Irrigation District.
Gotcha.
And I'm also a member at large for the URA, and I also work at the airport.
Okay, airport. I know this.
Butch Alford, and I've met Jerry, of course. I'll just tell you, the Lewiston, Clarkston, the counties, the ports are fortunate to have Jerry. It's a return at Valley Vision to economic development professional. Not just a good guy, but a professional with years of experience.
Thank you very much, Butch.
I'm Katie Hollingford, I'm the Assistant City Planner for Lewiston.
And I saw you a couple times last night.
Yes, yes.
Luke Hanson, State Engineer.
Where are you from, Luke?
How long ago?
Over a beer.
Don Beck, I'm Nez Perce County Commissioner.
Congratulations, I think, I'm trying to, they had a meeting yesterday and was it you or somebody else that's the new?
We rotate our chairmanship every year, so I'm this year.
Congratulations.
I've got the arrow on my back, or the strip on my back, or whatever they call it.
Joe Anderson, newest Port of Lewiston Commissioner. Went to the holiday Valley Vision reception. Got to meet you and hear you there. Anyway, my day job is a farmer, almost retired, but not quite.
And farm, wheat?
Genesee. Yeah, wheat and
Potatoes?
not potatoes. Rotational crops, oil seeds or pulse
Pulse.
crops. Yep.
Okay.
And some,
We're familiar with farming in my days with North Dakota.
oh yeah.
I'm Jennifer Douglas. I represent the URA, so I'm sort of general counsel. And my day job is that I own a law firm that's licensed in Idaho and Washington, but I'm just over the bridge on the Washington side. And I was an Army brat, so I am from everywhere.
Understand. And thank you for sharing. Cool.
Hi, I'm Dawn Ortiz. I'm Community Development Specialist
Uh-huh.
with the city.
Yeah. I like your last name, by the way.
And I'm Shannon Grove. We've met several times, but actually it'd be a good time for me to introduce myself to the board. This is my first meeting. Was officially the Community Development Director back in November, but as you know, Laura stayed on for the URA the last 2 months. So this is my first meeting. We're gonna do some great things. I was hoping to have the maps of the RAAs up for today, but couldn't make it happen, unfortunately, through the holidays. So I'm really hoping next week we'll have them, just to have those visuals of each of the areas when we're having discussions in here. And so I asked the mayor if we could put those up, and he said yes. So that's awesome. I'd love to see, after learning what we can do with the URA, as you know, I'm taking over from somebody who did it for many, many years and was the expert. My background is actually, I've been in government since 1999, and I worked in community development before I left to go work for the Lewis-Clark Valley MPO, which is a transportation planning organization. So I've dealt with a lot of masters. I do work for a board with the MPO as well, so I have experience working with boards, and just happy to be here and want to learn, as some of you will be learning as well. And so, anyway, that's all.
We'd say welcome, Shannon.
Yes,
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
I nearly forgot that this was your first meeting.
I know. Well, we kind of been in the thick of
I
it for a
know.
couple months.
I know,
So
it's true.
yeah.
It's true. Well, Mr. Chavez,
Mhm.
did I say that correctly?
So it's the first time, yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Okay.
When I go by, whatever.
Okay,
you.
we're very excited. We hope that we can create a relationship where we can partner maybe on projects that might benefit both agencies in some way. And we also have the port, who also has an economic development piece to it too. Maybe the URA can be of some assistance somewhere along the line.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, so now on to the active agenda. Approval of the minutes from December 13th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I should probably ask for discussion, but. B, the approval of the invoice for JBD, Jennifer Douglas Law Firm, for $915. It's in your board packet.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then item C, the invoice from Northwest Engraving Services. This is the plaque that we ordered for Laura.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Very nice.
Okay, and then.
Good cookies too.
Yes, there's no invoice for the cookies. Okay, item D, adopt the resolution. This is the resolution we discussed at the last meeting. It's in your board packet. This is to terminate the memorandum of understanding with the school district. They support this termination. We sent them a letter as required, letting them know that we were planning on this. And now we have a resolution in the board packet authorizing, actually terminating the resolution and authorizing the chair to sign the termination.
I would move we adopt it as it's about time. It's been on the agenda a while.
I'll second it. I'm figuring it's been 5 months.
It's safe now? Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then the final item, we're down to the election of officers. In our bylaws, it requires the election of a chair and a vice, well, and also a secretary, vice chair and a secretary, once a year, annually. Then when we get to the discussion about the bylaws, I'm gonna add calendar in there. So is there anything that you would like to add to the election of officers
Nope.
at this time?
I would just point out that it was supposed to be our officers come from the at-large members rather than the taxing districts.
That is what we've been advised by our attorney. I would open the discussion on that.
Can you remind us why the advice was that?
Well, I think we have possibly in the minutes a short memo from Elam and Burke on that point. So this discussion really started with outside counsel. This Urban Renewal Agency Board is a little bit unique in that you have people who wear more than one hat on in an official capacity. It might be city council members or county commissioners. And they always feel picked on when we talk about this, but remember, conflicts or multiple hat wearing isn't a good or bad thing, it just is, and it's important to acknowledge. So some of the concerns that have been raised are just that there's situations as a board chair where you could be put in a tough situation if you're also a county commissioner or you're a city council member. So the safest course recommended is to elect officers from at-large members. Now, Megan would prefer that we overhaul everything and make all members at large. But of course, that's not the direction that this board appears to be going. So the advice is a little bit, from her office is a little bit more strident than that. But that is her advice, and I certainly understand where she's coming from. But again, if you do decide to elect an officer from someone who's also serving as a city council member or a county commissioner, we'll just have to take up those pieces as they come up each time. Do you have a conflict here? What does that look like? Does it make sense to sign this check if it's an exchange of funds, for example, between this agency and the other agency that you have some sort of representative or authoritative capacity on? So we'll deal with it when it comes up if we have to.
Madam Chairman, as a vote of confidence and appreciation in your service, I would nominate you to serve as chairman again, if you would so accept.
Second.
All right. Any other nominations? Okay, I accept the nomination. As the current chairperson, do I call the vote for the
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I will serve as the chairperson for the next calendar year. Is there a nomination for a vice chairperson?
I would be pleased to nominate Sheila Bond for our position of vice chair.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you.
All right, we're down to
You know,
unfinished.
I have never really understood, even with your good explanations, the reason to have it at-large members only in the officer group. I don't have a problem with it. I think we'll do fine. We are doing fine. But for most of the 2 decades plus, we've had no problem with other representatives being our officers.
Well, and, you know, Megan represents urban renewal agencies throughout the state. So she's probably seen a lot of things that we haven't encountered here or we haven't encountered yet. And so, you know, her perspective, that's why we hire her.
Well, I think we should follow the advice, but
It is a murky issue. Even I have to sit there and wrap my head around it, especially when I have pop quiz time at the meetings. Like, okay, pull all the data on that and make sure I articulate it sensibly.
Well, I think this at-large person had the most conflict of interest in the last year.
Yeah.
That's probably fair.
that's true.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, while we're on the topic of at-large members, have we had any interest in filling the 3rd seat?
We have, yes.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up under comments, but I'd be happy to share with you that we have an interview tomorrow with a prospective member, and hopefully it'll work out well.
Excellent.
Yes. Tim Switzer, who was at our last board meeting, we're interviewing him tomorrow at 4. Rick, Sheila, myself, Shannon, and one other person, and Katie. Yes. Yes.
And that's been noticed up, right? You've noticed up as a meeting?
Why?
We'll talk after the meeting.
Okay. We can do that.
Right. Well, hopefully we can still do that because,
Yeah, I'll just try to find out more
right.
advice.
What's been the practice in the past?
Depends
Or
on
an
the
interview?
agency. Well, it's more about, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Okay, board
So,
member comments.
A question occurs to me. Do we have the position of secretary? We do in the bylaws. Is that unfilled at the present time?
It is,
Yeah.
because we do not have another at-large person.
Right.
If we're willing to nominate an elected official for secretary, which I would support, then we can have an election for a secretary at the next meeting. It's not on our agenda on this meeting.
Staff will continue to do the
Right.
dirty work though.
Yes,
Of course. We have a contract that says we will.
yes, yes.
And I think we purposely didn't put it on here too, because that's kind of the discussion with the bylaws, what direction does the board want to go? And so we didn't want to appoint somebody to that and then take it away if that's the direction the board wanted to go. So we thought, well, we're taking care of the duties, so leave it to discussion.
Can we make a motion to table that until the new one is chosen?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so there's
Yeah,
no,
you don't need to table it.
no motion
Yep.
that needs to be made today. But, yes. Yes, on the board member comments, though, I have a comment. I know that the annual report is probably something that we're starting to work on now.
Mhm.
And I feel that there could be, and I think you expressed this before, Shannon, that there could be more of an articulation of the good work that the URA has done.
Okay. Mhm.
A better marketing piece to that, I think.
Okay.
And
Yeah, so I did take yet another look at it today just to kind of see where pieces of data points that I needed to find. And certainly with this first one, it's going to be a little difficult for me to reformat it rather than take what we have, continue on for this year. But we can definitely take a look at it. My understanding is you look at a draft next month and then you actually adopt it in March. And so we have an opportunity for everybody to kind of weigh in on that part. If there's graphics that you'd like to see changed, what I can do is how about if I email the annual report to everybody and kind of go through that and we can brainstorm it next.
I think that's a
Next
great
meeting?
idea. I'd love to have everyone be thinking about what it is, what message we really want to get for the URA and what it is, what we've done, accomplished. I think that some of the graphics that we had, I think were great, but I think we could still do a little bit more, in my opinion.
And especially with new members on the board, it's a great opportunity to say, I don't get this. I don't get what it's saying. Because what we want to do is we don't want to make what we put out there, we don't want to make it so that you have to be well-versed in URA to understand it. And so me coming new to this will help too, because I've looked at some things and I even know a lot about URA, but scratching my head like, ooh.
Madam Chairman, I would think just in lieu of the shock that we all recently had with property taxes, that there would be some kind of segue or correlation in this message about that. But boy, that's kind of complicated. I don't know. It took a couple meetings to kind of get incremental
Yes.
tax funding through my head.
And I've fielded a few calls, and based on those conversations too, we may want to even put in that, the graphs from the actual tax, recreate it so that there's no personal information on there, but recreate the tax bill and show the math.
Oh, man, I don't know about that.
We'll have to talk about that one the next time when we get an example up there to see if
Sure.
it looks like it's coming.
Is saying is telling the message we want it to tell.
Telling the message that we want, but.
Yeah.
But if we took a revenue allocation area and we know that at the base year it was this, and the average inflation in appreciation in properties went up 41%, did the base area for that revenue allocation exceed 41%?
Yeah, and I don't even know if we can explain base area
Yes.
in a message.
Yes, that's true. Anyway,
We may be kicking a hornet's
did
nest.
did our revenue allocation areas increase in valuation more than what the city increased in appreciation?
Are you talking about like a percentage overall? Like a global-
Yeah, and I'm not really sure if a percentage overall really makes sense. And do we really want to focus only on dollars? Because I do think the East Orchards sewer project has a public safety component too. We don't have septic going down into the aquifer, and I think that's important. So I don't know if focusing just totally on dollars is right, but.
Well, that's a good start because I think as you said on this committee, it takes a while to get a hold of everything, and so you need to talk to an assessor, you need to talk to treasurer, figure all that stuff out, and they're the ones that can explain it better than anyone. I think the article that Dan Anderson put in the paper was excellent, but it needs to go a little further, and there isn't any reason why we can't have that education here with the board, so we know what we're talking about, or when we have a allocation area, we need to really review if that allocation area is going to be able to take off and sustain itself, or whether it's going to die on the vine, because because depending on where the levy rate is set, that will tell you where you're going to be getting the money back, and sometimes if the levy rate is set real high, and then all of a sudden it drops, what happens to that area? It goes bankrupt. So we need to be aware of those type of things when we discuss the allocated areas, so.
And traditionally, we've had that information
Right.
and have made decisions that float financially.
Right, and that's what we need to continue to do.
Yes. I would agree, yeah. Well, good discussion. Are there any other board comments?
No, in actual board member comments, new and unfinished. Just tomorrow is a normal Port of Liston meeting date at noon. We're currently.
All right, staff comments.
So Luke stole my thunder. I was going to talk about the, yeah, Mountain Waterworks was approved last night. Again, just kind of taking this over and have some patience with me, please. I have been asked to make a presentation to City Council. I did ask them to delay that for a couple months before I make a presentation to them. But I think going through the annual report and really looking at ways to make us more accessible and understandable. And those are the kinds of presentations we need to make at a council meeting. So it'll all tie together.
Excellent, yeah. All right, and thank you for including the summary of activity, the financial statement in our board packets so that we know where we sit.
You bet. And sometimes, so you can see at the top of that, it does say preliminary, and the reason why is we had to get this packet out right in the first week of January. And so the only things that might change is some interest or something else that came through. But Carolyn, I met with finance team last week, and we are all a little new at this. And so we're all learning together. But that's why it's preliminary. If we were to send out the packets.
And when will the property tax assessments show up on here?
So my understanding is we will get those, we're gonna get the levy, I'm sorry, I'm just looking back at, I'm sorry, we're gonna get the value worksheet from the county. We should have the September value worksheet this month, sometime this month.
Mm-hmm. The end of the month.
And then we should see those in February.
Yep.
Okay, so we may not see the effect of the property tax file in these revenue allocation areas until our March
Correct.
meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then will Mountain Waterworks come back with a revised contract for us, or how do they plan to handle where we only agreed to fund a portion of that contract?
Well, so the contract is with the city of Lewiston,
Okay,
Mountain Waterworks, and then you have the agreement, if I'm understanding it correctly, then the URA has an agreement with the city. So the city agreed to a scope, and then over here with us, we've agreed to certain payments to the city. So I don't think we have a contract with Mountain Waterworks. The city does. And if you recall at the last meeting, there was a bit of balancing of the accounts from East Orchards 2. And so the agreement was, so in normal circumstances, you know, we would pay half, 50-50. That's
Right.
what the agreement says. But the URA is a bit behind in that. So there may be, we need to catch up with that. And so the city will be billing us more than 50% until we can do that catch up. That was my understanding from the last meeting.
I think that's accurate.
okay. All right. Okay, so now that we're on to the discussion of the bylaws. Included in your packet is the current bylaws. And it does make mention of a secretary position. And as Commissioner Alford pointed out at the last meeting, that if we don't have a secretary, the duties fall back onto the vice president. So I guess the question before us for next time, or this discussion I'd like to have, is whether or not we think that we should elect a secretary if we have an additional at-large position.
When I reviewed the minutes, I'll just throw out there also, it was part of the reason for the delay was that at the time that you discussed this, you had not signed the contract with the city for the administrative services. Now you have.
That's right.
And so now you have this third party, if you will, that's doing most of this work, if not all of this work. And so the question is, do you keep the secretary in there? You know, we're a contractor. The city's a contractor, essentially, doing this work. If you took all of this out and you were not happy with the city's administration, where does that leave you? And it might just lead you to, well, we just find another contractor to do this work. But I think we can all agree that there's not one board member. It's not typical for a board member to do all of this. It is typical to have a secretary and they kind of oversee the work that's done by somewhat clerical services, if you will.
See that the notices are duly given.
Right. And the city takes care of all of that. If you needed some sort of, we kind of talked about the attestment to the minutes, but I've seen boards that have that and I've seen boards that don't have it. I don't think it's a you have to have this. The MPO board does not have a secretary and they have a service contract with the city to do all of the necessary work.
Well, I think historically what we've done is have a secretary, but the hard detail work has been accomplished by our contracting with the city. And so the duties of the secretary have really been more in the attesting or signing of documents than the actual work enumerated in the bylaws. And I don't see us having a secretary that would replace the function of the city. That would be very difficult.
Do you feel that it's imperative that we have a secretary that attests to the documents, or is that something that the vice chair could do?
I think the vice chair could easily do it.
I don't mind either way.
From reading the minutes, it sounds, or from reading the bylaws, the vice chair position is there to be the president if the president is not able to function, and the secretary is not able to function. The vice president is basically the floater, to fill in.
Other duties prescribed by the agency.
As assigned.
And you don't even have to have all of this stuff in here. Bylaws have them, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It doesn't, just having this language in here doesn't make it happen. Actually, the contract with us is what makes this stuff happen now.
Yeah.
So that's written agreement between us. So it kind of muddies the water to have this language in here. Looking at it. So
Well, the
something
key
to
is
have.
number 10, where the secretary may appoint an administrator or administrators to carry out the duties of the secretary under his or her supervision. So that's what's been
Well, and really.
the operating effect over the years.
Right, but in actuality, that actually didn't happen. There was no secretary to appoint the city. The board, the two entities made an agreement. So I'm saying you could strike the whole thing and just say, there's no secretary. You
I agree
could.
with Shannon.
Good.
You could.
If you look at each one of these, every single one of these is contracted for, and the reason it's even in here is because it's a historical relic as a function of Dan having served both on the board and as a staff member of the city. And Butch is right, if you were to take all these things and assign it to a lay person, it would be, a really difficult and cumbersome and create liability for the agency. So, if you want to keep a secretary for something that you haven't assigned to the contract with the city of Lewiston, then give some thought as to what that might be. Otherwise, I'm not sure you need it.
At the next meeting, can you bring us a red line draft without the secretary duties? And put it on the agenda.
And then do we want to specifically say that the vice chairperson in that draft will attest to documents signed by the chairman, or is that significant to the board?
Okay.
We can add it if you want.
I think it's a good double check. It's like why we have 2 signatures on the check. It's that
Jennifer, what you're suggesting is that in the bylaws, that section 1 under secretary role could be added to the vice chairperson.
Yes. I don't know if it would be worded exactly like that, but we could look at it and play with it.
Yeah.
Add something like that to the vice chairperson, and then redline the secretary, so you can, all the secretarial provisions, so you can look at it.
Could it be possibly that they put that in there so there was at least 3 people that could access the signatures when one's out of town?
Could be. That's a good question.
That is a good point. Yeah, that is a good point.
Good discussion next
Yeah.
month.
Okay, let's get it on the agenda for next month and be thinking about it. And, all right, any other business? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Adjourn.